everybody. I've been holding Sweat Lodge for about 30 years. And I'm used to telling stories in the dark, so being in the spot is different for me. Joseph Campbell was interviewed by Bill Maher, and when he asked Joseph, what is the best way to connect with the Spirit? Joseph Campbell replied that to participate in an ancient ceremony. And the Sweat Lodge is an ancient ceremony. And it exists today because it's so effective. I have been holding ceremony for almost 30 years. And my teacher is Dilmar Bonney, an Apache that lives up in the Phoenix area. And I've been with him since 1984. He called me last year and said, we really have to keep the ceremony going because the elders are leaving the planet. And I said, you don't have to tell me that because it's my heart space. I can't be without it. Out in the West Desert, I built a sweat lodge. I built it like a kiva, and it took me over 3 years to put it together. And I hold ceremony every month, and people have come from every continent. They have found me through the internet. We have an internet site. And they have come for their prayers to share their heart. And so I go into the sweat lodge to fill my cup, to heal, to strengthen my connection with Creator. My body has arthritis. I'm in my 70s. I work full time. I couldn't do all this if I would go into the lodge and renew myself and detoxify myself and bring myself into balance. It's a busy world out there. So there's a Native American elder from the Navajo Nation that comes to my ceremony, and he told me one night before the ceremony, he says, oh, I've helped build sweat lodges over there, and over there, and over there, out in the West Desert. And the ceremony begins with calling the ancients, and you can feel them come out in the West Desert to participate. I moved to Tucson from Salt Lake City, and in Salt Lake City I held lodge for 15 years every month. And for 5 years I held a lodge just for women only because they asked for it. Women came to heal, men came to heal. Sometimes the lodge was all women, sometimes it was men and women, sometimes it was all men. And so in Salt Lake City, I suppose, I'm wondering, since I moved from there, because people would move away from the city and come back and show up because they knew they could count on that ceremony every month. And so I wondered today, sometimes people don't show up at my old home, wondering, is the ceremony going to be? But I was raised in a family that did service to the community. And it wasn't something that was discussed around the dinner table, rather it's what my parents did. And I didn't find out all the things they did actually until they had passed. And then people came to tell me about the things that my family did for community. And I am from a family of ministers, so my grandmother was, my nephew is, my other nephew's married to a Methodist minister, so it's kind of down our line to be ministers. And I was raised with an open heart and filled with curiosity. Curiosity has actually ran my life. And so when I was at church as a young child, I knew that the God they spoke of wasn't the one I knew. It didn't fit for me. And so I went to other churches, a lot of different churches. But when I started my ministry program, we had a Native Healing Arts part of that program, and that's when I went into the sweat lodge. And when I came into that sweat lodge, I knew that I had come home. I knew that it was my heart space. And it's something that I can't be without. I'm connected right here to the Earth Mother. The lodge is the womb of the Earth Mother, and it's made of wood and stone. And it's made in a sacred way, and the lodge has been blessed by the sacred pollen of the Apache. The lodge begins with the stone people coming in, and the stone people are lava rocks that have been brought from sacred sites all over the West. And so the stones are heated and brought into the lodge, and the door is closed, and the ceremony begins. I have a friend named Debbie, and she lives in Packwood, Washington right now, that is at the base of Mount Rainier. And I met her in Salt Lake City, where she came to the lodge for many years. I went up to visit her, and we went into the old growth forest. It's a magical place. I had never been in an old growth forest, and so we went shiitake mushroom hunting. And we looked and we looked, and we were having no luck. So we got in a circle, and we called the divas of the forest to really bring us to where the shiitake mushrooms were. And we turned around, and right at our feet was a large circle of shiitakes. So we gathered them, we took them, we fried them in butter, yum. And so that was my experience of that old growth. And I went home from that experience, and Debbie called me, and she was really upset, and she'd heard sounds outside, and in the morning she went outside, and they were clear-cutting the forest around her property. Well, the elk bedded down behind her house, and she went out and started crying and yelling at this man on this large piece of equipment to stop it, to stop it. And this went on for a very long time, and eventually he was crying. But he knew he had to clear cut the forest. So it continued until the habitat of the elk was destroyed. After that phone call, I decided I needed to rebuild the lodge in Salt Lake City because I had 2 golden retrievers, and they would go out and sit on this stone willow lodge and crush it. And after a few times that, I decided I needed to make something more permanent. So I got a hold of some people that came to the lodge on a regular basis and asked them if they wanted to help me build the lodge, and they said sure. So off we went on the sacred journey to Home Depot. And we got there, and I went down the lumber row, and I found the planks, and we were loading the planks onto the cart, and they were stabbed Packwood. So that sacred forest from the base of Mount Rainier came to Salt Lake City to be part of the Sacred Lodge. Magic is all around us. Just open our eyes and we can see it. So Debbie decided she needed to come back to Salt Lake City to be in the ceremony of the sweat lodge built with the ancients of her land. And she decided to bring some stone people, some lava rocks from Mount Rainier. And so she gathered those and went off to the airport. And when she got to the airport, she realized that she needed to use the restroom. So she put this bag of stones outside the stall and went to the restroom and came out, and the bag was gone. She's running around the airport saying, "Have you seen a bag of rocks? Have you seen a bag of rocks?" And so she finally found them. She boarded the plane with them. By that time, everybody knew she was running around going on the airplane with a bag of rocks. And she brought the stone people from their sacred mountain to the ceremony. The energy that night was amazing, just amazing. One evening in Salt Lake, a medicine man from Oregon called me, and he had been to the University of Utah visiting, and he said, "I want to come to your lodge." And I said to him, "You know, there's a lot of Native American lodges here. I could give you the information on them." He says, No, I'm supposed to come to your lodge." And I said, "Okay." I gave him the address and said, "I'll see you soon." Well, the lodge began, and I didn't see a native in the group, and that's not unusual. People say they're coming, they don't show. People don't say they're coming, and they show. So it's just that spirit takes care of those things. And after the second round, in came 2 new men, and he began singing, and I knew that he'd found a lodge. His journey that night was, he got on a city bus, and he was on his way to the lodge, he thought. And he pulled to a bus stop, and there was a man at the bus stop and said, "Get off the bus, get off the bus." So the medicine man got off the bus. And he waited with him, and they got on another bus, and they came to the lodge. So if you're supposed to be there, Spirit takes care of you getting there, even when you're going the wrong way. Well, holding lodge, I've had Native American men call me and say, you know, you're a white woman, and you're not Native, and you're not supposed to be running the lodge. I will do it for you. And I say to them, I live in the United States of America, where freedom of religion reigns, and hang up the phone. So, you're all welcome to come and sit in the darkness and have the veil lifted in the sacred sweat lodge in the West Desert of Tucson.